Are you looking for the best 2024 NFL bets around? Then get ready for the NFL's Week 2 IDP Plus Moneyline podcast. Welcome back to the IDP Plus Moneyline podcast. My name is Johnny the Greek. I am joined, as is tradition, with my good friend and co-host, the IDP tipster himself, Mr. Gary Van Dyke. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hey, go Michigan.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we kicked off here. Not a great loss for them the other week. Things are looking
Oh,
good
it was
for.
beautiful. What are you talking about?
Yes, sir. Things are looking good for your Buckeyes. So yeah, this week we are getting into some week 2 bets, money line, total, um, spread, all that. Before we get into it, though, these are not even suggestions. We are just discussing the bets we may be making personally. Set a limit and stick to it. For help with problem gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. And before we get into week 2, just a real quick recap of week 1. We were 6 of 10 on my official picks on week 1. 7 of 10 if you bet the KC game when the total was at 47.5. With that being said, let's get into it. Let's start with week 2. We're going to skip the Thursday night game because it's happening right now as we're talking. So we'll start with Sunday, 1 p.m. first game, Saints at Cowboys. Saints are getting 6 points. Dallas is giving 6 points. It's minus 110 either way. The total is 47 points, minus 105 if you want over, minus 115 if you want under. If you want money line, it's Saints plus 220, Dallas minus 270. I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole. This is a classic trap game for Dallas after they looked so good in week 1. But, there's just as good a chance that they just kill the Saints like Vegas thinks they're going to. So I'm not touching this one. But, Gary, you got any good IDP props for this one, maybe?
Yeah, DraftKings is kind of slacking at the moment this year early on, and we're not getting a huge amount of sack props, which is kind of what I like to do. If you want to check out the tackle props, make sure you check out the IDP props show. Comes out on Saturday morning with Axton and Johnny. But so we had like 7 games to pick from. So I did manage to find some good ones that I liked, but in this situation, I don't have any. But I will suggest that you go look at the Cowboys linebackers and their tackle props. The Saints have been top 3. They were top 3 in 2023 at the end of the year, allowing production to those guys, and they were in the top 10 in week 1. So I think that rookie's doing pretty good. Eric Kendricks, I would avoid Clark probably. I think the rookie might be injured, so check that one. But Kendricks ought to have a decent number on him.
Yep. Yeah, Kendricks had a spectacular week 1. I'm with you on that. That's a good call right there. It's all right. We'll just keep it on moving here to Raiders at Ravens, another 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Raiders are getting 8.5. Ravens are minus 8.5, minus 110 either way for the spread. Total is 41.5 points at minus 110 over or under. If you want money line, it's Raiders plus 330. Ravens minus 425. And I do have a couple I like on here. I want Derrick Henry anytime touchdown at minus 185. That's not great, but price wise, but it's pretty likely to happen. That's what Vegas thinks anyway. Or alt rush yards, 80 plus alt rush yards for plus 110 against this Raiders defense that literally just gave up 176 rushing yards last week. And the Ravens in week 1 were not in their preferred game script at all. If the Ravens have to throw the ball 41 times in a game, things are not going well for them. That is not their MO. That's not who they are. They have a chance this week to get back to playing Baltimore Ravens football, just running the living crap out of the ball right down the throat of the Raiders. And I think Derrick Henry is going to be a big part of that. So I would probably, either take both of these individually or parlay them together. 80 plus alt rush yards and an anytime touchdown. That feels pretty likely. You got anything IDP wise for this one?
Oh, yeah, that's an easy pivot because we're just going to go based off of just what you said right there. I don't have to say anything. Go check out Robert Spillane, maybe Debo's linebacker numbers for this tackle props this week. Baltimore was top 10 in 2023, and they were top 10 last week. I know it's repeating, but if you guys watch the game, hey, you can understand why. So, anyways, go ahead and get Spillane if you can. See what his numbers look like when they do finally come out.
Yeah, right. If it's not a crazy tackle prop for him, if it's not like 9 or 10.5 or something, I would absolutely take the over on Spillane for combined tackles. You got Derrick Henry that's going to be running the crap out of the ball. There were a lot of short passes into the middle that'll be in Spillane's area. That feels pretty good, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and real quick too. I mean, that actually could be out because sometimes DraftKings will have like 8 games for the sacks, but they might have 12 games out for tackle props. Tackle props isn't my department, so I'm just making suggestions. So that actually could be there. You might want to go check and see what those numbers are early on all of these that we're talking about. Because I'm just looking at the numbers where I would lead to give you this advice. So at this point, I'm just going to stick to giving the actual sack props that when we get to them.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, that takes us to Giants at Commanders, another 1 o'clock game. Washington is favored by 2. Giants are getting 2. If you went Washington -2, it's -108. If you went Giants +2, it's -112. The total is 43 points, -110 over or under. If you want money line, it's Giants +105, Commanders -125. And I'm going to take the under on this, under 43 points total. Just the eyeball test. Both offenses looked really bad in week 1. Daniel Jones had a 16.2 quarterback rating. Anything under 50 is bad. Anything under 20 is horrendously bad. He also had 2 interceptions and 5 sacks. Jaden Daniels had a 41.2 QBR with 2 sacks and only threw for 184 yards on 24 attempts. I think the total is a little high when we look at the offenses on both these teams, what we've seen so far and what we've seen in recent history from both of them. I think they're going to have trouble getting to that total. So I want to take the under. If you do feel iffy about that, you can use an alternative under, maybe under 47.5 or something. The payout won't be as good, but it'll be a little bit safer. That's what I'm thinking for this one. What do you got for this one?
Well, they didn't have the sack props out, but it'd be interesting to see what they are in this game because the Giants were top 2 in production off the edge in 2023, number 1 last week. And it's not a really appealing talent. I mean, Terrence Armstrong's good. You know, he's a solid player and everything. And this would be the guy, the edge rusher, that I'd probably focus on if he had the good numbers. Luvu is actually very interesting because him being more of a linebacker in this situation, he was blitzed 9 times last week. So if the Giants are giving it up, I think that you might actually find that Luvu's numbers might be a little bit higher than Armstrong's. Don't quote me on that. It just depends on how they look at them. But either way, I would consider either one of them when these get out, when they do come out.
Yeah. And Luvu, our main concern in the offseason was playing time, and I think he had like 92% of snaps in week 1, so that's not as big a concern anymore. And Daniel Jones got sacked 5 times last week, so this is totally doable, I think. All right, good stuff there. Next 1 o'clock game is Chargers at Carolina Panthers. Chargers are favored by 6, -6 at -108. Panthers are getting 6 at -112. The over-under is 39, -108 if you want to go over, -112 if you want to go under. Money line is Chargers -238, Panthers +195. This one is pretty easy for me. It's actually in the article. It just came out at IDP Plus as well. I'm taking Chargers -6. Panthers looked absolutely terrible in week 1. And the Chargers ran for 176 yards against the Raiders and played excellent defense, holding a talented Raiders team to just 10 points. It's only been a week of play so far, but the Panthers are the 31st overall defense in the league. The Chargers DST is a trending transaction in every single league platform I've logged into this week. Why do we think that is? Because everyone sees the same thing we're seeing right here. This is a Chargers team that's bought in to what Jim Harbaugh is preaching. Their my main concern with them was pass catching options. They didn't really even need to pass in week 1. When you're running for almost 200 yards on the ground, you don't have to throw it every down. So that's not so much a concern. They just beat a much better Raiders team than what this Panthers team is. So I have zero concern about this. We say that, the Bengals game happened last week. So, shit happens. But if this goes the way it should go and the way Vegas thinks it should go, Chargers -6 is pretty much a done deal. So I feel pretty good about it.
My numbers didn't crunch very well. I mean, you would think they might not even had this one listed yet on DraftKings. Khalil Mack is always a shiny option right now, so I definitely look into that. I would base that more off of the this early in the season and what I did see. I would actually base that more on his talent than anything. But the one that I would really like to see targeted would be the Derwin James tackle props, because they're just giving away production on the inside midfield. And Derwin James is this tackle monster to begin with. So I have no problems probably looking at that and seeing what that threshold would be. But I mean, a good 8 tackles, I think that would probably be within the realm, no problem.
Yeah, and there was a excuse me, a crazy rotation at linebacker for the Chargers in week 1. There was no true like number 1 linebacker that, 3 different guys saw like 50% plus snaps. So Derwin is clearly the best tackling option on the Chargers right now. So I'm with you on that.
Sweet.
All righty. Next one is Colts at Packers. Packers obviously without Jordan Love this week. Colts are favored by 3 at -105. Packers are getting 3 at -115. The over-under is 40.5 points, -112 if you went over, -108 if you went under. Vegas has the Colts money line at -148, Packers at +124. I'm not touching this one. This should be theoretically a Colts win against a backup quarterback in Malik Willis in the Packers, but Packers have enough talent and they're good enough that they can kind of dial it back and just run the ball, play defense, limit mistakes, and still maybe win this game, especially when we consider Anthony Richardson only completed 9 passes on 19 attempts in week 1. So, the Colts are fairly one-dimensional, you could say, when it comes to their offense so far this season. But still, that I don't really have a call on this one, so I'm avoiding it. Any thoughts on the IDP props?
Yeah, this is like my first actual sack prop here. So I'm going to go with interior defensive lineman Kenny Clark for the Packers at a quarter of sack at over a quarter of a sack at +154. I could also consider Devontae Wyatt. He's average. It's not the the best. He's not going to be the first guy I'm going to look at, but I mean, considering that both starters for Houston last week both ended up with a sack, and it's basically because Anthony Richardson's back in the fold. He's running the ball. They're going to run the ball, and he's going to put himself in a situation probably like he did last week, especially with Kenny Clark, that's been a known stud for years. He's just been kind of carrying that interior for such a long time. He doesn't have much help there. But yeah, I'm definitely sold on Kenny Clark at a quarter of sack at +154.
Yep. Yeah, good call there. I'm with you. All righty. And that takes us to 49ers at Vikings. Niners are favored by 5 at -110. Vikings are getting 5 at -110. Over under of 46 at -110 either way. If you want money line, it's 49ers -225. Vikings +185. So Vegas is fairly certain San Fran's going to win this one. I'm going to take the spread here, 49ers -5. The Vikings did look very good last week, and Sam Darnold was quite efficient running the ball, passing the ball. But they've got some injury issues. I saw Harrison Smith pop up in the injury report today. And Jordan Addison also is not likely to play this week, so they're going to be down a couple guys. The Vikings looked great against the Giants, right? This is not the Giants. This is the NFC champion 49ers that just beat the hell out of the Jets on national TV Monday night. The home team automatically gets 3 points in spread betting. So Vegas really thinks that the 49ers are going to win by more than a touchdown. They're going to win by 8 points, right? If we really look at this thing. Doesn't matter whether or not CMC is there for the 49ers. Jordan Mason still ran for 147 yards on 28 carries for a touchdown and caught another pass for 5 yards. This is just 2 entirely different levels of talent. The Vikings certainly have some talent, but the 49ers have talent everywhere. So yeah, I think they win by at least 5, most likely way more than that. So I'm going to go Niners -5.
Looking this one over, man, none of the numbers crunch quite well for me. Of course, you would think Joey Bosa will be a nice one, but they didn't have those on there. Check those out. I'm not going to. I can't suggest it without knowing the numbers, though. Basically, a no bet here for me, but I do want to recap real quick that I talked about Devontae Wyatt, and basically, if I was going to dabble any money on that deep throw there because he's at plus 280 for a quarter of a sack, it's worth $5 or $10. It's a long shot, but it's a long shot that could pay off. He is capable in the right matchups. I've seen it used. I've used him I've managed him in fantasy football before, keeping track of this guy, and he does perform when the matchup is correct, and it's hot for him. So I just wanted to recap that real quick. He is a long shot.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, Nick Bosa, 49ers. I'm with you on that. That's wait until his line comes out. Have a look at that. And the thing with the sack lines I've noticed so far this year is they've really adjusted to it. Like if you want a TJ Watt sack, it's like minus 200, right? So
Right.
you're never going to make any money on that. So when you see a line like you're talking about with Wyatt at plus 280, sure, it's not as likely to happen, but it's one of the few good payouts that exists right now. So, you got to take it or leave it. Yep. Alrighty. Next one is Cleveland Browns at Jacksonville. Browns are getting 3 at minus 112. Jags are giving 3 at minus 108. Over or under of 41.5 points, minus 110 either way. If we went money line, it's Browns plus 124, Jags minus 148. So Vegas thinks this is a pretty close game. And I tend to agree. I'm not really planning on touching this one. Any IDP props that you have in mind?
Yeah, I know Josh Hines-Allen was off to a slow start. Again, a lot of these starters didn't play in the preseason. Last week was their first real taste of any kind of action. So keep that in mind if you're a fantasy football IDP or even wide receivers. I mean, I had a lot of fantasy stuff go wrong because of the snap counts for these starters. So on the wide receiver side, running back side, or whatever. Anyhow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Real quick, while you're mentioning that, the offense is historically crappy right now because they don't have that 4th preseason game, and none of these teams are playing their starters in the preseason because they don't want to get them injured. So average passing yards last week was 185 across the entire league. Not even 200 yards of passing as an average across the entire league. There were 34 touchdown passes last week total across the entire league. There were 61 in 2019, Gary. That's how incredibly shitty the offense is right now.
Yeah. And it's just that's exactly what's happened is for the last 3 years, especially, it used to be at least you've seen the starters really well for the third preseason gamers. They're not even getting that. They're getting a series and they're the hell out. So it's just how it's rolling now. And I mean, it's probably why they're thinking about, or were they going to extend the season some more? Maybe. No, I don't know. Anyways, we're going to roll with this bet with the Josh Hines-Allen over 3/4 of a sack. He's going to get a whole one. And he's at a negative 105, which I don't go too low below plus 100 given these things, but I'll go with this one. The Browns, they was top 5 in week 1, allowing production off the edge. I believe we all got to see that. And then they were also top 5 at the end of 2023. So, I mean, they're right up there with those same numbers. And as a bonus, I'm going to mention our D-Gen Doc that does our injuries for us. And you also know him from doing the Thursday Night Live and doing offensive prop bets here on the IDP Plus Bets. Both starting offensive tackles are out this week, apparently, or banged up. Yeah, I think. Yeah, no, they're both out. Yep. So,
yeah, that's wild, man. And Dallas teed off last week. DeMarcus Lawrence, old man DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 sacks last week. Parsons had a sack last week. Like they teed off on these guys, and if they're missing offensive linemen, this looks pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. Hines-Allen had a hell of a year last year, folks. So I mean, he's going to get one this time.
Yeah, he averaged about a sack a game last year. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Alrighty. So before we get into the next set of games here, start your season with a bang. Get 20% off any IDP Plus subscription site wide using the promo code PROPS, PROPS. Gain access to exclusive tools, in depth articles, and much more. Plus, don't miss out on our private subscriber Discord channel. Sign up now at idpplus.com/membership. Alrighty, got another 1 o'clock game here. Seattle Seahawks at New England Patriots. Seahawks are favored by 3.5 at -108. Patriots are getting 3.5 at -112. Lower over under here of 38.5 points at -110 either way. If we went money line, it's Seattle -185, Pats +154. I'm really not planning on touching this one for anything except maybe inside linebacker tackle props when those come out. Because, I mean, eyeball test last week, both of these offenses were kind of run by the running back position. That was the engine that drove these two offenses. I know Kenneth Walker's banged up and may not play this week, but Charbonnet is pretty darn good himself. And Ramondre Stevenson looked like the old Ramondre Stevenson last week and was a big part of that upset that took out the Bengals in week 1. So I think Vegas is right. I think we get a lower scoring game. I think we get a defensive struggle. I think both teams try and establish the run. And whenever you have that kind of situation, it's great for inside linebackers for combined tackle props for those easy run stopping tackles. So that's what I'm thinking. What do you think on this one?
The one thing that I found a lot of consistency in is what the Patriots give up to the cornerback position. In 2023, they were top 10, and against the Bengals, they were top 10 in week 1. So I look at the Seahawks starters. I think you actually, I'm not a corner guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
Witherspoon, Tariq
yeah,
Woolen. Pick your poison. Yep.
yeah. So I'd check those tackle props out and see what they look like.
Yep. Oh yeah, and placing an over tackle props bet on Devin Witherspoon literally any day that ends with Y is not a bad bet ever. He's very good. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Yep. Alrighty. Next 1 o'clock game is Jets at Titans. Jets are favored by 4 at -112. Titans are getting 4 at -108. Over or under of 41.5 points, -105 if you want to go over, -115 if you want to go under. The money line is Jets -192, Titans +160. So Vegas thinks the Jets are going to win in pretty handily. I'm going to take Jets money line here. So this is the number 3 overall defense from last season. I am well aware that they're missing Hassan Reddick. I unfortunately drafted him in too many places this year, so I'm paying for it now. And they lost Michael Carter in week 1, their talented third cornerback. But there is still more than enough defensive talent to shut down this Titans offense that was 27th overall last season and did not look much better in week 1. Will Levi only had a 30.8 QBR, which is truly horrendous. He threw for 137 whole passing yards in week 1. He had 2 picks, 3 sacks, and the last interception he threw won the game for the Chicago Bears. This is like a get right game for the Jets, who just lost on national television in front of the entire nation on Monday Night Football and have a much more talented team across the board. This is a get right game for them. I think they right the ship and win rather easily against the Titans this week. What do you think for this one?
Oh, I loved it. I had Lazard like deep in best ball, buddy. You
Oh,
know,
that worked.
that connection, that Green Bay connection, just waiting for Rodgers to come back. He was worth it. Anyway, so when they're available, I'm going to look at the Jets edge pressure numbers and see about Jermaine Johnson, see how those looks. I'm probably willing to do it for the simple fact is the Titans were top 8 in week 1, allowing production off the edge to the Bears, and which have struggled at times. Now I know what Sweet's up there, so that's a different level, probably the better guy that they've had since Mac for a while. But in 2023, they ended the year as a top 3 guy. Of course, we know about Fields' experience up there, getting sacked a lot. So, yeah, I'd check out Jermaine Johnson and see what his numbers look like when they get out on DraftKings.
Yeah, and you're right. He had a slow week 1 as well. I mean, it was not a great matchup. The 49ers are not easy to do anything against, right? And this is not that. The Titans are not the 49ers. So I
Yeah,
think
the
yeah,
49ers
yeah,
don't allow, yeah, they don't allow a lot of production off the edge. I mean, they're not,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. That so, and Birdie runs into the sacks.
Right, right. So yeah, I could see Jermaine bouncing back this week. Absolutely. I hope he does. I got him in quite a few places as well. All righty. That takes us to the last 1 o'clock game for week 2, which should be a good one. We've got Tampa Bay Bucks at Detroit facing the Lions. Bucks are getting 7.5 points at -112. Lions are giving 7.5 points at -108. Huge over under of 51 points, -112 if you want to go over, -108 if you want to go under. The money line is Bucks +295. Lions -375. So Vegas is pretty damn sure Detroit's going to win this game. I am not that sure, so I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But what I am doing is another algorithm killer. I pulled this off in week 1 with Xavier Worthy. If you go with these guys that don't catch a lot of balls, but when they do, it's usually a touchdown. You can do this algorithm killer thing I've talked about before, where you do an anytime touchdown, an over on yards, but an under on receptions. It freaks out the algorithm on these betting platforms and gives you these insane numbers for the parlay. So check this out. Jamison Williams missed this by half a catch last week. That's how close he was to pulling this off. And it's the same thing we're doing this week. Anytime touchdown, over 44.5 receiving yards, under 3.5 receptions gives you plus 1233. $10 gets you $123 on a bet like this. And this is one of the guys that's more likely to pull this type of thing off. I'm not going to say it's going to happen for sure because I've only done it a couple times ever. But when it does happen and you get plus 1233 on your payoff, it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, and bettors got to play the odds, especially when you're getting and when you're trying to hit those huge big plus numbers. I mean, you pay for what you get. It's kind of like going and here in Ohio buying a lottery ticket. If you want $1 million, you got to spend to buy the $5 ticket. So
Yes.
either way, with the scratch offs, whatever. So Lions actually are favorable off the edge, but I'm not going to mess with this one because I don't really have a lot of faith at the moment in the Buccaneers edge rushers. I mean, the only one that got a sack last week was Joe Tyrone Shawanka. Anyway, sorry, folks. Anyways, I think he's a former like backup in Washington or something. And I'm not saying he's not okay, but man, I'm not putting money on that unless it's like a real dart throw and I get a huge payday if I put $5 on it. Anyhow, the guy that was supposed to kind of be breaking out this year is Yaya Diaby.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Anyhow, he didn't get a sack last week. He actually didn't get much. Again, this is, I don't know how much preseason he got, but I just coming off of like 7.5 sacks last year or something like that's not enough for me to bite into this. So I'm not really loving either one of these. I just want to mention it in case you do see these numbers are good for these guys on a matchup or whatever. I don't know, man. It seems pretty risky. But what I would do is I would pivot and look at what the either safeties, either backup or Jordan Whitehead's back down there had a hell of a game first week. See what those tackle prop numbers look like because for week 1 in 2023, man, Detroit's been up there top 5.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think Whitehead had I think it was 8 solo tackles in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good week. And good call on the Diaby Joe Toyan Shoyinka. Jesus, that's a rough name thing too. Because part of this is the setup, right? Is the setup good? Is the opposing offensive line bad enough that you get good production off the edge against them? Yes, great. We like that. But the other part is, are the guys that we're betting on to get the sack talented enough and play enough to make it happen, right? Because you need both ends of that equation for this thing to happen. If you only get one end of it, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I might not say it at times, but unfortunately, I know all these guys that's been in the leagues for all this time, and you have an idea of their consistency.
Right.
I don't have anything on either one of those.
Right. Right. And obviously we're not throwing shade. These are professional players making millions of dollars. We're a couple of schmucks on a podcast, but we are looking at things that are likely to happen. That's what our viewpoint is on this. Yeah. All right, good stuff there. That should be a very good game as well. Looking forward to that one. That takes us to our first 4 o'clock game, divisional matchup. Rams at Cardinals. Rams are getting a point and a half. Cardinals are giving a point and a half. -112 for the Rams, -108 for the Cardinals. The over/under is 48 points. That is a higher total. -108 for the over, -112 for the under. If you went money line, it's Rams +100, Cardinals -120. I do think the Rams win this game. I think they bounce back. They were right there with Detroit in overtime in week 1. And I think if they had won that coin toss, they win the game. So I know they're a very good team. I think they have a chance to win that division. And while the Cardinals looked much better in week 1 this year, I don't think they're there yet, right? So I'm going to take Rams, but I'm going to do an alt line. I'm going to tweak it to +3.5 alt line. That makes the price -180. Like I said, they played their butts off last week against a team that many people have already penciled into the NFC title game. At Detroit, they did this without Pukanuka, right? So they should bounce back against a better Arizona team, but an Arizona team that's not quite there yet. This is more of a gut feeling. I don't have any science behind this one, but I am taking the Rams +3.5 alt line.
Uh, Cardinals were a top 5 in 2023, allowing production off the edge. They were holding their own when it come to week 1 until they lost their offensive tackle, Jonah Williams, and now he's on IR, according to our Degen Doc Sebastian. I actually had a little parlay going last week that I didn't share in article form. Oh, by the way, you can check out my sacks articles on Fridays. Hopefully there'll be some more lines. So there might be some different ones that we have in here or additional ones. But I had Bryce Young. He did get a sack last week. And in this situation, I'm definitely mainly targeting him. There's no bets out right now or no odds out right now for DraftKings. So I'll be looking at him versus interesting, of course, as a rookie. But I think if I'm going to put any really hard confidence in anybody, it's going to be Young in this situation. I know Murray is coming off his injury. He played some last year, knocking off the rust. He looked pretty decent, I guess, mobility wise. Hey, but it's not going to stop me from going ahead and taking this one after Young had an outstanding or a decent game to start the season with. And he did get to play some of the preseason because you can't sit everybody. He's only in his second, third year or something too. So I did want to mention too, I am a big Michael Hoyt dude. And for all you crazy fantasy football IDP fans out there, man, if you drop them, keep your eye on them because I really think it had something to do with not playing in the preseason.
Yep, good stuff there. Alrighty. So before we get into the next 4 o'clock game, do you want a little bit extra in your fantasy football bankroll? Deposit just $10 with FanDuel and get $50 in bonus bets. It's the perfect boost to kick off your season. Don't wait. Claim your bonus now at idpplus.com/FanDuel. Alrighty. Next 4 o'clock game, Bengals at Chiefs should be a good one. Bengals are getting 5.5 points at -105. Chiefs are giving at -115, also 5.5 points. Over under of 48, -112 for the over, -108 for the under. If you went money line, it's Bengals +205, Chiefs -250. So I'm going to take the Chiefs -5.5. They did just beat Baltimore, who was, in the AFC title game last year in a classic week 1 game. Cincinnati has all kinds of problems right now. So T. Higgins is not likely to play again this week. New England just beat them and knocked out damn near 80% of the IDP plus Survivor League in one go. Yeah, that happened. New England let them have everything underneath and took away the chunk plays. They took away everything over the top. They took away the bombs to Jamar Chase. And that kind of recipe is easily replicated by a defense as good as the Kansas City Chiefs. This feels like an easy game plan for KC and a pretty straightforward win for them and I think they can cover the 5.5. Bengals just got too many issues going on, and the Chiefs are looking just as good as they have been last couple of years here.
Yeah, which is leading me to the fact that I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Drue Tranquill over a quarter of a sack at plus 290. All right. Now, he actually plays linebacker, but he is actually a blitz package specialist for him. He was blitzed 6 times last week. He just didn't hit home. Now, is he a superstar? No, but he's a damn good player. And you just wrapped up about how the Bengals looked last week and such. So I know Karlaftis, he has also got a sack bet on him, but I believe that his number was quite a bit lower. And I'm a little bit nervous about him. I mean, he is above average, but kind of waiting for these guys, some of them to warm up. But I did like what I seen out of Drue Tranquill enough to go ahead and throw $5 or $10 on a plus 290 in this, or add it to a parlay. So week 1, Bengals were top 12 in allowing production off the edge and in sacks. And 2023, believe it or not, they weren't in overall production, allowing a lot of tackles and such, mainly because they didn't run the dumb ball, did they? I can't remember. No, wait a minute. But either way.
Yeah, they had a backup for more than half the season in quarterback, so they were not exactly a prolific offense last year for half the season.
Right. 4 and out on their own, didn't need a sack. Either way, I don't know. But Joe Burrow was sacked 3 times in week 1 this time around against the Patriots, and sacked 24 times in 10 games in 2023. So that's over 2 sacks a game. If you look at his prior years, when he's playing, he's getting sacked. So I like this. I like the payout. And as I mentioned, he is in their blitz packages, and you'd be surprised. So like any of these edge rushers that we're talking about, you can look at PRF or Pro Football Reference, and they'll give you the blitz amount and all of that. You'd be surprised. Most edge rushers aren't even counted as in being put into blitz packages. So a lot of times you might be surprised the guy got a sack, tackle for loss, and all this shit, but he wasn't even blitzed the entire game. In this case, there is a blitz count, and it's Drue Tranquill playing linebacker and coming off the edge and trying to get in there. I think he's going to get one this Bengals game. I mean, they're playing at home. We've seen the Bengals last week.
Yeah, right. If New England can take them out like that, the Chiefs are going to really, screw up their afternoon. That's for sure.
That was a good game for the Patriots, man. Considering they had Keon White and some other rookies, they got a lot of new pieces on the defense. Mayo is doing a hell of a job up there.
Yeah, no doubt, no argument here. Yep. Alrighty, last 4:00 game of week 2 is Steelers at Broncos. Steelers are favored by 2.5 at minus 118. Broncos are getting 2.5 at minus 102. Very low over under of 36.5 at minus 110 either way. Vegas thinks this is going to be a boring stinker, and I agree completely. Money line, Steelers minus 148, Broncos plus 124. This one is super easy for me. I'm taking Steelers money line. Bo Nix had a 31.3 quarterback rating in week 1, which is not good. He only had 138 passing yards, which, you would expect from a rookie, but not on 42 attempts, Gary. That's insane. That is very bad. Non-quarterback runs for this Broncos team in week 1 was under 3 yards a carry. And this Steelers defense just completely dismantled and shut down Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and Drake London. Do we really think that Bo Nix and a bunch of guys that we've never heard of stand a chance against them with or without Russell Wilson at the helm? I do not.
Well, one thing I do have faith in is Jonathon Cooper of the Broncos, man. I'm going to tell you a little bit of background about this guy. He was nobody, and now he's somebody, and he became somebody last year, which we had mentioned on the shows, I believe, before he was coming up. So he really started off last week with really well with a sack, but he is at a quarter of a sack at plus 130 at the moment. And when he got that sack last week, I hated it because I actually stared at the dude like for an hour and ended up picking, I don't know. Oh, I went with Jeffrey Simmons instead or something. But anyways, Landry got his. I'm all good. But anyways, I like Jonathon Cooper at a quarter of a sack at plus 130 against the Steelers. I mean, Justin Fields and the way this offense is used, I think it sets it up nicely. And that is why we usually, no matter if Steelers are all healthy across the offensive line or not, we still do see sack production. And it won't matter if Fields went down, Wilson went in, they're interchangeable. Wilson's sacked, or he gets sacked a lot now in his older age, and he used to like to run into him too. So across the board, I'm going to go ahead and stick with this one. Jonathon Cooper, quarter of a sack at plus 130.
Yep, I'm with you. Yeah, Fields historically gets sacked a ton, and Russell Wilson in recent years also gets sacked a ton. So that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those numbers. I mean, see, Steelers were a top 12 at allowing production and ended 2023 as top 5. Sorry, a little extra there.
Oh, no worries. All right, that takes us to the Sunday night game for week 2. This is could be a good one. Battle of younger quarterbacks here. Bears at Texans. Bears are getting 6.5 points at minus 110. Texans are giving 6.5 at minus 6.5. Minus 110. Over under 45.5 points. It's minus 108 if you want to go over, minus 112 if you want to go under. The money lines are Bears plus 225, Texans minus 278. So Vegas thinks Texans are going to win to the tune of bet $278 to make 100. So they're pretty sure. I agree with Vegas. I'm going to go Texans money line. They're clearly the better team. They're at home. And the only thing that gives me pause is they only beat Indianapolis by 2 points last week with Anthony Richardson barely playing quarterback, essentially, only completing 9 whole passes on 19 attempts. The Bears also were not good in week 1. However, they do have the pieces on both sides of the ball to surprise us here and stay close in this game. So with all that in mind, I'm not going to touch the spread. I'm just going to say money line. Which is a stinky price, but you could parlay around robbing that to fix it a little bit. Texans money line is the pick. What do you got for this one?
Well, it was too bad DraftKings didn't have Daniel Hunter's numbers up for us, but I mean, everybody on the Indianapolis line, I think, got a sack last week. I think Pay got one. Didn't Buckner get one?
He got 2. Yep.
And Tyquan Lewis or something, which has been there for like 5 years. Hell, he was even a breakout call of mine 1 year, but he can't stay healthy. He did get a game in last week, and he did really well. So I'm definitely going to be looking at Daniel Hunter's numbers. The Texans were like a top 10 the first week of allowing production, and they was an average of a top 10 last year. You'll notice you won't hear me giving bets for top 30s. That's not how it works. So that's why you keep hearing these same kind of numbers over. Just letting you know.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's identify the value and then identify the players that can take advantage of the value.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this works. Absolutely. All right, before we hit the Monday night game, DraftKings is making it easier to win big. Deposit $50 and get $50 in bonus bets before this promo expires on 9/19. With IDP Plus insights in DraftKings, you'll be racking up those fantasy points. Grab your bonus at idpplus.com/DraftKings. All right, last but not least, Falcons at Eagles. Falcons are getting 6.5 points at minus 108. Eagles are giving 6.5 points at minus 112. Higher over under at 47 points, minus 112 if you want to go over, minus 108 if you want to go under. Falcons money line is plus 245. Eagles is minus 305. So Vegas is very certain that Philly's going to win this. I am not going to touch this one for an actual bet because my actual bet would be Eagles money line. And No one wants to bet $305 to make 100. That's just batshit crazy. So I'm going to say no. However, Caden Ellis, inside linebacker, tackle props against an Eagles team that ran for 144 yards in week one, with Saquon having 109 of them and 2 rushing touchdowns, feels pretty darn solid to me. Also, Kirk Cousins is taking all of his offensive snaps in either the pistol or the shotgun due to issues with his plant foot. This limits what they can do offensively and their creativity, and could lead to a very bad night for the Falcons. So, yeah, I would go Eagles money line, but that price is so insane, I just wouldn't touch it. What do you got for this one?
Well, I mean, just the description you just got. I mean, I figured there's going to be a shootout. I love the Ellis call, and I also would be concentrating on looking at Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates safety tackle props, and see what they look like, because I got a feeling they're going to be pretty busy again. That line, I know Grady Jarrett looked pretty good, had a couple good plays, and so, but there's a lot of good wide receivers, decent tight end. You got Shaquan, or you got Barkley is going to break the second level all the time. So if Ellis ain't got him, it's going to probably be Bates or Justin Simmons. I probably lean Bates if I was going to go there, depending on the numbers.
Yeah. Yep. Good call there. And this could be the type of game where the Eagles are on offense for like 35, 40 minutes, and Falcons IDPs / defense has extra value with that. So that's always a possibility with these one-sided affairs as well. Yeah, good stuff right there, man. That's all we got for this week. Any parting words or announcements?
No, I think we both want to get off here and watch this Thursday night game, don't we?
Yep, that's the plan. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Good luck this week with your bets. We will catch you same time, same place next week. Have a good one in week 2. Take care. Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.